Okay, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the Ordinance Committee meeting of October 22nd, the public hearing section, to order. With no one signed up, unless there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the testimony regarding in connection with the ordinance regarding illicit discharge in connection of stormwater, please feel free to do so. If not, I'm going to close this meeting at 7:01. And I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order. It's October 22nd. Do I have a motion on the minutes for last meeting, which was in August?
Dave Harden.
Thank you, Dave. Seconded by Christia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so we have 9. We're missing. You're missing 2. We're missing Jim and Ken. Yeah, so 8. Item number 3 is unfinished business, and there was none, so we're going to move ahead to item number 4, new business, the ordinance regarding illicit discharge in connection of stormwater, number 18-13. Is there a motion? Thank you, David.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes.
So just, I read the ordinance, and I'm okay with it. It did leave, and I would direct this to the town attorney, Attorney Florek, it did leave a department to be named. Would that be more in line with WPCA? Would it be conservation? From the town attorney's office, do you have a recommendation, sir?
Yes, I have a couple of recommendations because there are several blanks in this ordinance, and in speaking with Chris Timniak, he had some suggestions, so we'll go through those in a minute. John Casey is here if you have any technical questions about this ordinance before I begin.
Not from a technical standpoint.
Okay, then this ordinance, the passing of an ordinance like this is required pursuant to the town's permit to discharge stormwater. And what was brought to our attention originally was a model ordinance. However, when we looked at it, we felt that the requirements were very strenuous, draconian in some respects, and so what we did is we reviewed the ordinance and made changes to make it what we felt was more reasonable. Now, so you have that ordinance in front of you, and I'm going to make the following suggestions for an amendment to that ordinance to fill in the blanks. Those suggestions are as follows. The Conservation Department, Christina Beto's office, will be the authorized enforcement agency as specified in paragraphs 4, 9A, 10B, 1, 2, and 3, and in paragraph 12. To paragraph 8A, which are discharges that are exempt from the prohibitions established by this ordinance. It's been suggested by Mr. Timniak that we add to it, as an exemption, the non-commercial washing of vehicles. The non-commercial washing of vehicles. And as to paragraph 13, or Section 13, which is the appeals mechanism. Any appeal of a notice of violation should be made to the chief administrative officer, and the chief administrative officer will be the appeals body. And last but not least, Section 17, fines and penalties. It has been suggested that violations should bear a penalty of $100 a day for each day of the violation. And if it is found to be a willful violation, that be $250 a day. Those amendments were suggested, as I said, by Mr. Timniak and in deliberation with Attorney Hodgson. And so I would ask that, if it meets with your approval, that the ordinance that you have in front of you be amended by the inclusion of what I just said.
So to clarify, Section 4 is Ms. Beto,
Correct.
Dr. Beto. Section 9A is also Dr. Beto?
Correct.
And then 10
B 123 is also
Dr. Beto.
correct. And paragraph 12 is also,
Both areas.
yes.
So I have a question. How does this get enforced? How?
Well, ultimately, and this is one of the more draconian parts of the original ordinance, which sought in many instances to make it a criminal violation, and so the town would have to try to refer it over to the state's attorney's office. We felt that the better way to do this was the way we enforce zoning cease and desist orders, which is if we can't get anywhere with the offender, that we go to court for injunctive relief in the nature of a cease and desist. Christina Beto would issue a cease and desist, and if the violation wasn't cured within the time frame that she gave the offender, then we would take it to court for to enforce the cease and desist.
And this would be a violation reported by another resident, or?
Well, I mean, it could come, and John may be able to answer this better than I, but it can come to the attention of the authorities in a number of ways.
Okay.
Yeah, we're part of the entirety of the permit is to have public education, to have a program where we're actively looking for illicit discharges. So we will have a citizen reporting element to that illicit discharge program. So people could call in and we would have a centralized program to be able to record that and track what happens to the complaint. Our public works staff would be trained to go, when they're doing their maintenance, look for signs of illicit discharges. So we could get a variety of different ways the information.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, how you doing, guys? I had a question about this, like the storm runoff water. Like, break it down for me, like what they will be responsible as business owners, because I see it's not affecting the personal homeowners like myself and the others. So explain to me exactly what's going on, firstly, to where we have to come to this conclusion and have to rework and reset the ordinance. So I want to have a clear understanding of it, please. Because I have guys that's in my district who have businesses. I just want to know how it affects them.
So in general, the goal is to stop unclean water from getting into the town's stormwater system. And we're doing this ordinance because the town has a permit with the state of Connecticut to allow the town to discharge water, which is from its storm drain system, and that permit requires us to make sure that water coming into our system is clean. So that's in a nutshell, what we're trying to accomplish.
I understand that. Have we got reports, or has there been something that actually occurred? Like, give me an example of what is dirty water or bad water coming in our storm drains? Because we know our storm drains catch everything, the sewer, so forth, flush every, I'm like, what are we looking at? Is there companies putting chemicals in there? I mean, I want to
Or
understand
like
this.
parking lots, you're looking at parking lots, cars leaking oil, or do you check someone who's painting a house and make sure they, like, you wash your brushes? I don't know, is that what
That's
you're looking for?
exactly, yeah, it could be a whole bunch of different reasons why unclean water is getting into the system. It could be someone purposely doing it. It could be just natural runoff. I mean, just dirt and road sand and whatnot is something we're trying to curtail. If it's a business, you know, they may be, you know, washing vehicles or washing equipment and using the storm drain as a way to get rid of the materials that they're generating. And that would be an illicit discharge if they were doing that. So we would, you know, try to enforce that. Number one, we just ask them to stop, but we do have to track it and monitor it.
So the way to stop would be to contain that water somehow, and then is there somewhere to bring it?
Well, for instance, you know, we were talking about the old days, you'd empty your car oil pan into the storm drain. And we know that's not what you're supposed to be
Right,
doing,
we
but
certainly
this
wanna
would stop
stop-
you from doing that.
Right.
What you should do with your oil is bring it to a service station, I think, or the town collects used oil as well. So it's just a matter of disposing it in the right way.
Okay.
Now, in terms of, like, say, for example, I think we have what's that company that's there with the cable people? They just moved in down that way on Honey Spot. They have vehicles that they wash. I mean, that's basic just soap and water. That's not really a problem, is it?
It could be if they're just going out in the parking lot and washing it into the storm drain, because comes with that wash water is oils and paints and salt and things like that we're trying to keep out of the stormwater system. Most of the larger companies will have their trucks cleaned at a professional clean, or a larger company would have sometimes they wash their own vehicles and they actually put in a treatment system to collect the water and treat it before it discharges, and then it would go into the sanitary sewer.
Okay, because I know on my block, in fact, in front of my house, you've been there when we had to build up the water in my driveway,
Yeah.
and you pitched it, and it's a lot better, but it still gets there with sand and everything. I'm not responsible for that, am I?
No, the town would be responsible.
Okay, I just
And
wanna make
We have a
sure.
street sweeping program, which is part of our permit to sweep the streets and make sure we're collecting materials that are on the road so it doesn't wash into the sewers. And then when it gets into the storm drain, we also, each catch basin has a sump that collects the sediment, and we go through and we clean all the catch basins.
I thank you for that, because I just want to be clear before I vote. on something.
Let me just add that, one of what you brought up, Wally, that's all basically already in the exemptions. And the other exemption that was suggested that we add was the non-commercial washing of vehicles. You know, the person who, 8A, you know, the person who's washing their car in their driveway. Now, also, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but don't large manufacturing or commercial establishments often have their own permits from DEEP? So they would be subject to enforcement from DEEP also, correct?
Yes, I'm not 100% familiar with the commercial permitting process, but the larger area companies would do industrial work. They would have their own industrial discharge permit.
How would this affect our own Public Works Department that must clean their trucks and?
Well, so we have our own permit for the public works yard and the treatment plant and the transfer station. So we comply separately.
We have a question. Go ahead, Counselor.
No, I just wanted to, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say thank you for the clarification, guys. Thank you.
I think Dave Harden has a question first. and then
I'll yield to you. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Senior citizen here. Under watercourse protection, if someone were to dump leaves or blow leaves into a brook or a stream going through their yard, would that be considered a violation?
I think there is something regarding putting debris and trash in the streams or anything that would cause the stream to back up,
Section
retard the
11.
flow, section 11. So, yeah, we would, discourage people from throwing things into the stream like that.
And I've seen that done, so it's
Yeah,
good to know.
and part of our permit is also a public education element to it, so the town will also be actively trying to communicate with people and let them know that they shouldn't be doing those things.
Yes, I'd like to think that a lot of this is common sense, but, and it's definitely the right way to go. And I think we have another question from Councilor Cam.
Thank you, Chair. Gentlemen, under section 17, the sentence that says, this is the first fine. There's the word exits, maybe it should be violation exists, shall be fined, and what was the dollar amount?
100 and 250.
My suggestion was $100.
Thank you. That was it.
The second sentence, or the second line you're looking at, the owner. A bit of a confusion with the word exits or exists.
That's a typo, it should be exists.
Exists.
There's a missing S in it.
Okay, it's in another section as well, right?
Yes, a little bit, 2 lines below. But it's correct there,
Okay, so that'll be corrected.
yes.
So through the,
Okay, so do we need to come up?
through the chair.
Yes.
So Attorney Fleurk, do we have to revise the original motion to be approved as amended by the town attorney's
I just
suggestion?
referred to town
Yes,
council.
you would need a motion to amend the ordinance that you have in front of you by inserting what we've discussed. And if that motion passes, then you would, the next motion would be to refer the ordinance to the town council with a favorable recommendation.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to make that motion
Perfect.
to amend as town Attorney Fleurk recommended.
Is there a second?
Before we make the second, I'd like to commend the town of Stratford and John Casey for, moving this forward. This does give the town an opportunity, whether they use it or not, to make sure that we are provided with clean and healthy water and to prevent people from dirtying our water source. I know that in the past that Public Works has had some, campaigns where they allowed you to bring your oil to Public Works because I believe that they use it to burn some of the furnaces there. So this is an awesome, lead into the right direction. And I'd like to make the second motion to put this into the revision be put into place as per the attorney.
So that's a second motion? We have two motions on the floor?
Well, I think he said it's a second to the motion.
Oh, a second to the motion. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Then we'll take this to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 9-0. Thank you. And we need another motion to
Refer to the council with a favorable recommendation.
favorable recommendation. Would
Madam
somebody
Chair,
like to make
I'll make that motion to
Counsel?
refer to the town council with a favorable recommendation.
And a second? Bill Perlow. Thank you. Motion all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And the last item is adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. Motion carries. It is 7:20.